Good morning, warriors. Please stand. Please join me in the pledge to the Bible. I pledge allegiance to the Bible, God's holy word. I will make it a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I will hide its words in my heart, that I might not sin against God. Join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, we're in basketball season, and we've been learning a sound-off from John Wooden, a famous basketball coach from UCLA. And he said, don't. We're also working through our catechism, and the part of the catechism where we're learning about what sin is. So we've been talking about the covenant of life, how Adam broke that covenant of life, and then we're learning about the definition of sin. So if you remember, sin is any lack of conformity to or transgression of the law of God. So let's try it. What is sin? Sin is any... So the next question is, what is meant by lack of conformity? What is meant by lack of conformity? And the answer is not being or doing what God requires. So repeat after me. Not being or doing what God requires. Your turn. And then the question after that is what is meant by transgression? And the answer is doing what God forbids. So repeat after me. Doing what God forbids. So sin has a twofold definition. Either it's not conforming to something, which is the perfection of Jesus, or I know it's wrong and I'm going to do it anyway. So when we fall short or when we deliberately disobey, both of those things are sin. And those, when we sin, what does every sin deserve? The wrath and curse of God. So we are in a horrible state because we fall short by not conforming, and we deliberately sin, so we add guilt on top of that, and it all deserves the wrath and curse of God. It's important for us to know what sin is so that we don't play with it. When we're tempted, we run from it because we know that it is something that God hates and God forbids, and it is deserving his wrath and punishment. That's why Easter is such a great celebration for us, because God sent his Son, and through Christ broke the power of sin and death in our life. So we no longer are under the wrath and curse of God if by faith we trust in him. We talked yesterday that Easter brings us great comfort because we know God is in control of all things, that if God was in control of all the events of human history and in control of all the things that happened during the crucifixion and the burial and resurrection of Jesus, then he's certainly in control of everything in my life. The second thing that Easter brings us is motivation. If God, through Christ, had the power to defeat the worst enemy of all, Satan, the worst thing of all, death, and the horrible curse of sin, if God had the power to do all of those things and bring victory, that should empower me to realize that power lives in me if I live by faith. So the idea of, well, I'm just going to kind of just wait till spring break, and I'm just going to kind of count down days till school's out, is not the way that a Christian should live. Being a part of the high school, we have seniors, which are getting ready to graduate. And one of the things that seniors struggle with is something called senioritis. Has anyone ever heard that word, senioritis? Yeah. Moms are like, yes. What is senioritis? What is senioritis? Matthew, do you know what it is? No? Okay. Senioritis it's the condition of seniors waiting for graduation and doing absolutely nothing until then. They don't want to do work. They complain, they grumble, and in some schools, not here, in some schools, they would actually have a countdown to graduation, and they would put like 43 days, and then the next day, 42. And they're just waiting and biding their time until they graduate, and they don't want to do anything until then. Well, that's not living a life of victory. That's not being motivated. If we know that God, through Christ, defeated all of the enemies, gave us victory, then that motivates me each and every day to live a life of victory. So the things that God calls me to do, which is for you being a student and for me being a principal, that calling is a calling of power and victory. And so I should be willing and able and gratefully and humbly and thankfully embracing the challenges for the day. So when we sing Up from the Grave He Arose, it should be a call to victory and thankfully and gratefully empowering us to do the work that He's called us. So today we will live in victory and we will do the work that He's called us to. So let's sing our song Up from the Grave He Arose. So let's live in victory today. So let's try these two sound offs. Let's see if we're going to sound like victors. You're in poor shape. Are you ready to strike your colors?
I have not yet begun to fight.
And like John Wooden says, don't. Let's try it again. Don't whine, don't complain, and don't make excuses, sir. Yes, because we're motivated to live in victory today. The Lord be with you.